I want you to tell us about the thinking, the idea, and the sort of goals behind this new thinking around transport here in the big city.
I think the big problem we're going to be facing in a few years from now is really traffic congestion. We've got massive in-migration of people coming into Gauteng. Our estimates is 25,000 people come every month into Gauteng. Our vehicle population is increasing. And I think down the line, we can forecast really massive traffic gridlocks and congestion. And we've got to start planning for alternatives. And we think non-motorized transport is really one of the options that we have on the table. So as a department and as the Gauteng Transport Commission, we are determined to begin to promote non-motorized transport, particularly cycling as a form of mobility for daily use, rather than just sport and recreational activities.
It's been something that's been in the pipeline for quite a bit. It seems as if we've got a little bit of problem with space, especially in Johannesburg. How are we going to overcome that challenge of space?
Well, there's two ways, really. One is to begin to modify the infrastructure and to build the infrastructure that we have. Now, if you look at just the link between the University of Johannesburg and Wits University, passing Auckland Park here at the SABC, we are starting to create dedicated lanes for cycling and for pedestrians. But the other alternative is really for people to begin to take charge of their communities. I've been cycling since I was in Standard 3 in school, right up to university in Lenasia. We've had gravel roads. We haven't had tarred roads in the early years. And I can tell you we had great fun skidding the bicycles on the gravel road, and I'm sure you also enjoyed that. So it's not just a question of infrastructure. It's about really a mindset change, a cultural shift in our communities, and to get people to start using cycling as a mode of transport.
How do you win over the confidence of the populace? I'm a cyclist myself, and I get a sense that there's a real fear factor amongst people using bicycles in the public space here. People have an idea that the roads can be quite aggressive, and that things like taxis and young drivers can be quite irresponsible on the roads.
I think road safety is a very, very big issue. We're going to have to find a collective response. From our side, I think public awareness and education is important. Various organizations promoting cycling are talking about 1.5 meters as a distance between a motor vehicle and a bicycle. But then we also need better enforcement. I think at the moment perhaps the traffic departments look at just motorists and traffic offences, but they don't have an eye to cyclists and the safety of cyclists or pedestrians. Most of our fatalities on our roads are actually pedestrians. Even in the car accidents, etc., it's the pedestrians who are the victims. So I think we need to begin to look at road safety in a broader context, and clearly part of that is public education. One last thing if I might add is when you go for your learner's license, I think all the rules that you have to learn of, etc., is really, we don't have a section really dealing with motorbikes, cycling, pedestrian safety, etc., and something which government has to look at.
What sort of timeframes are you looking at, and then also what sort of international models? I'm sure you're looking at international models. I know Cape Town has made some strides forward, but what sort of timeframes and then what sort of examples or benchmarks are you looking at?
No, we are starting with work immediately. Of course, you're not going to change the infrastructure overnight, but I think the city of Johannesburg has taken a lead in this. We've got a cycling route in Orlando Township. We've started with this one, as I said, between the various universities here. There's one coming up now really in Alexandra Township in Sandton, again promoting cycling that will come online next year. City of Tshwane is looking at closing off 4 major streets in the city centre to motorized transport and really making that pedestrian walkways, cycling, skateboarding, all of those kinds of things. So we want a new look and a new feel to our cities. International models, I think there are best practices all over the world. I've just come back from Shanghai. I can't believe the greenery that we see in the cities, the dedicated lanes for cycling, for motorbikes, and for cars and buses. I think that's the way to go.
Johannesburg is already seen as a very green city in the way that it looks. It's lots of trees all over and so forth. But is this part of integrating the undercurrent of green energy and green living in our cities and suburbs?
Look, Gauteng is a major contributor to carbon emissions. We are actually a culprit on the African continent, and we're going to have to find ways of reducing our carbon footprint. Cycling is one positive example, of course, to go for Euro 4 or 5 compliant buses, to get the taxis to begin to convert to natural gas rather than fuel. So there are a number of things that we are already rolling out, but I think the big thing is to get cycling going in the province of Gauteng.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. me as a cyclist, I look forward to this because I think sometimes our roads can be a little bit crazy and a little bit dangerous, and it's wonderful to see that you guys are putting this kind of process in play.
Yeah, but I cycle as well. So let's go on Sunday together.
Fantastic. I'll take you up on that on that invitation. That's the Gauteng MEC for Transport, Mr. Ismail Vadi, joining us here on Newsroom this morning. Thank you very much
Thank you very much
for joining us.